Okay, anybody go ahead and start reading 1929.
Thus it came about, when God destroyed the cities of the valley, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot lived.
Okay.
Lot went up from Zoar and stayed in the mountains. And I hate this part. And his 2 daughters with him, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar, and he stayed in a cave, he and his 2 daughters.
Okay, so he's in the cave with his 2 daughters, and so daughter and daughter is D and D, which is the same thing as Dunkin' Donuts here, and I wanted to make sure you knew that he brought in the donuts today, so you can thank Ken. Okay, good. Anyway, just had to get that out of the way. So, all right, he's safely delivered. Obviously, his wife didn't make it with them. They needed something to spice up their food on the way, so they just took. Yeah. Anyway, and she was all used up by the time they got there. So, I'm sorry, I had to. Anyway, poor Lot. He's got his 2 daughters, and they're living in the cave. Go ahead.
Why was he afraid to stay in Zoar?
Zoar?
Yeah.
Maybe because he thought it was going to be overthrown too. Because I believe, if we go back, and I'm not going to, but I believe it was supposed to be overthrown with the other ones, even though it's small. It's part of the plain that was going to be destroyed.
When he asked him not.
The what? Yeah, he said, don't destroy, but he probably thought it's going to be destroyed anyway. And so, that would be my guess, is that, judgment didn't come now, but it will come. I don't know, but if he's afraid to stay in there. The what?
They're still just as evil and just as...
Absolutely. And so it may be that, we don't have everything that's in here, but it could be that they said, we're going to destroy this at some future point, and, don't stay here, and he was afraid to stay here, or whatever. Maybe he's going to get blamed for what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. He's the only one that's rescued, and the people say, well, how come you were rescued, nobody else was? So I have no idea why, but time for him to move to a cave. So, and they have actually over there in this area that this occurred, they have a cave where there is a shrine built, and they believe that it's the cave where this guy actually lived. Whether it is or not, they've got all kinds of sites all around the Mideast that they do have a cave that they believe was Lot's cave, and actually they found it. It was an ancient monastery or something, and it was lost, and then they refound it later. So I saw that in one of these Discovery Channel things or something. Kind of cool. But they do believe that that's the cave, but who knows. Okay, go ahead, please.
Then the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there's not a man on earth to come into us after the manner of the earth.
Okay, why would she say that?
Because she'd only ever been in Sodom and Gomorrah, and she just figured everybody was gone.
Right. Zoar was there, and, maybe they thought that was destroyed, like we said. Who knows? But she's thinking that this is the end of the world as we know it. Right. So we got to do something. So despite what happened, you can understand their reasoning. They figured they're like Adam and Eve. They're all alone out here, and, they're living alone with Dad. They don't know anybody else. They know that the people they were betrothed to are dead. The land, I got to tell you what, it is really barren there. You will walk around and not see it's like going out to North Dakota. You just don't see people for forever. And I wonder, when I was driving around the country, you get to some of these places like this, you see a little girl playing out in a house, and there isn't anything for 35 minutes or 40 minutes going at 70 miles an hour in either direction. Nothing. And you think, where is she going to find a husband? But they do. Eventually, somehow they get together. But I went up in a mountain in Montana with my friend. They've got a cabin on top of this mountain. And it took us, we went way, way, way away from the closest city. And then we started going up a mountain, and it was the bumpiest road I've ever been on in my life. It was appalling how bad it was. And we went up, and it took us an hour or more to get up this incredibly bad road. And we got through the first gate and the second gate. And then he says, oh, there's a Russian guy with his wife and daughter that live here. And then we went up further and further. But I thought, it was so far away. And I thought, I wonder how she goes to school. And I kind of said it out loud. And he says, well, they send a bus up for her. Now, can you imagine doing that every single day for one person out in the middle of absolutely nowhere? And the school had to have been a 4-hour drive. It had to have been. I can't even imagine it. But anyway, that's what we're dealing with here, is these 2 girls and their dad. And they're out in the middle of nowhere without cars. So,
come, let us make our father drink wine. Oh, I tell you. And let us lie with him that we may preserve our family through our Father.
Okay, here's a question. Now, if anybody here was a drinker before they met the Lord, and when I say drinker, I mean somebody that drank and really got, yeah, okay. Did you ever get so drunk that you didn't know that you were doing? I read this, and I got to tell you, he may have been completely drunk, but I can't imagine him being so drunk that he didn't know. It says in the Bible he didn't. But
How could he do it?
yeah, I asked myself the same question. I'm glad that you brought that up because I wouldn't have gone that far. You can, I can't. But I used to drink a bit, not a lot. But when I was in Japan, one time I drank a bottle of white wine and I threw up all over. But I mean, that was a lot for a guy that doesn't ever drink. And I knew what was going on. I just didn't like what was happening. And I think, the Bible says, well, go ahead, finish the thought and,
So they made their father drink wine. They made him drink wine.
Yeah, they forced it on this poor old guy. Poor Lot. He's just this.
And the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose.
Okay.
See, that just says he didn't know.
He could have fallen asleep, and then in the middle of the night he woke up, and but he had to have known that there's no other lady around. These questions, I don't mean to dwell on it, but I ask myself these things every time.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing when we get to the account of Jacob and the 4 wives, Jacob. Anyway, but maybe he thought he was dreaming, but afterward he would have known that he wasn't dreaming. Anyway, please go ahead.
On the following day, the firstborn said to the younger, "Behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine also tonight also. And then you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve our family through our father." What I want to know is, did they have knowledge of cycles, and how did they know?
Well, you know what? That would be the Lord's providence. I got to tell you, I think that also. How do you know when these things are going to happen? Well, the Lord does this. It's like the one time that Judah slept with Tamar, his daughter-in-law.
Exactly.
The one time she gets pregnant. And, so I look at the Lord's hand in this.
Yeah.
The part about Lot, I look at it as there had to have been a knowledge of what was going on. I can't see it otherwise, but that doesn't mean I'm right. Maybe it was a certain type of wine that they grow there that we don't have here.
He knew what was going on in Sodom.
Oh, sure.
He was supposed to stay there.
Well, that's right. But, as with Noah was a preacher of righteousness, and it says in the book of 2 Peter that Lot was a righteous man. So it's possible he was there preaching, just like we got people that are living in corrupt societies are missionaries. And look at this guy that, he's down there with the baseball players, and most of the baseball players, I'm sure, are a bunch of arrogant, but they're converting people to Christ. So I can't fault him for being in Sodom. Maybe he should have lived on the outside of Sodom and gone in to preach to him. I don't know, but you see my logic there. But as far as this account here, this one really stupefies me. I just, the thing, the term, whatever you used, the New King James Version.
The digression there.
The what?
The digression. It becomes easier, at least for me in my life, when I accept something.
Oh yeah, when you sin, then it's easier to accept more sin. Yeah, that's right. And that happens. That's why, we're told all through the New Testament to be on guard, to stand guard against these things. And, Ephesians 5, living in the Spirit and using the equipment that God provides. Because you're right, if we let our guard down, it will continue to degrade. But the term here, at least in New King James Version, is for lineage, preserve the lineage of our father. The word is seed, okay? So it's the same word that's used in the Old Testament and other areas. It's the continuation of the human species. So, okay, please, go ahead.
So they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father.
Yeah, the cycle thing. I mean, you got to see the Lord's hand in this, and there's a reason why. He knew that this would happen. A certain people group came out of them. They became, antagonists against Israel, and but these were all things that the Lord knew would happen. So, for whatever reason, here you go. And it's the same thing with Ishmael when we go back there. The Lord knew that Ishmael would be a wild donkey of a man long before he created the world, and he did it for his purposes. And they're all coming to fruition today, thousands of years later, these same people that we're talking about. So, okay, 38.
37.
Okay.
The first
Oh, yeah.
bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day.
Okay, what is the word for father in Hebrew? Abba, okay? So Mo from Ab, father, from father. So that's why she, that's what she named him. This is from father. So Moab. Okay, please, at 38.
As for the younger, she also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ammi.
Mm-hmm.
He is the father of the sons of Ammon to this day.
Okay, what is Ben? Ben-Hur, Ben-Jamin, what? Son. Yeah, so you have Ben, and then Ami, my people. Me. Me would be the personal, so of my people, or son of my people. So both of their names indicate the incestuous relationship that went on. They didn't try to hide it. That's why I say, I can't fault these two girls if they thought, we can't insert anything into the Bible, all we can do is speculate, but if they thought we are the only two surviving people and we need to preserve our father's lineage, this is how we're going to do it. Or maybe they thought we're so far away from other humanity that we need to do this. I have no idea, but I don't want to make a judgment on it from our modern perspective when we have no idea.
So maybe, the relativists say all things are relative. Maybe relatively.
Well, that's right. Maybe they thought it was just a normal thing to do because they saw it every day.
I know.
I'd never thought of that, but that's... Yeah, yeah, that's a real good point. I mean, they don't know. I mean, they're girls that want to have children. They want to keep Dad's name alive. So anyway, there you go. We kind of got through that without too much. I know it's a difficult passage, but it shows you where the Moabites and the Ammonites came from. And if you go to Israel today and you stand on the Israel side of the Dead Sea and look across, those are the mountains of Moab. And isn't it dry and desolate down there? I mean, it is just...
Shocking.
It is the driest, most desolate place, but it's really beautiful because the Dead Sea, it's 1,300 feet under sea level, and it's very hot, and so the land shimmers, and you can see these mountains shimmering. It really is neat to see. So anyway, that's the area that they are. The what?
But it stinks.
Stinks? You mean
There up by the Dead Sea.
the smell?
Yeah.
Well, the clay does, but it didn't really smell. Were you there?
Yeah.
See, you smell. I really didn't smell anything.
Oh my
I remember the clay when we got into the clay and put it on your body. I remember that stinking, but I just don't remember the smell that bad. Huh?
I have a strong sense of smell.
Oh boy. Well, I got to tell you, that was of the whole place in Israel. That was probably my favorite place to go. Was the Dead Sea. Oh, I loved it. It was just Mom and I one morning, or was it at night? It was at night. We walked up the mountain on the other side of the hotel. It's on the Dead Sea, and then we walked up there. And the next day, Zvi, our travel guide, says, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. That's where the En-Gedi viper lives, and you could have gotten bit because they're out at night, in the cool of the night." So, but here we are. It's full moon, walking up this mountain, and oh well, whatever. We didn't get bit. So, and then I started up the mountain the next morning. I didn't go to the top, and it was just, I wanted to see what it looked like down over the Dead Sea. So, anyway, really beautiful place. The reason why I think I liked it so much is because there's nothing like it here. If you go out to the Arizona and New Mexico, it does. It looks a lot like that, but there's nothing like it here. So it was real nice to see. But, okay, 20, please. Chapter 20.
Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while, he stayed in Gerar.
Okay, real quickly, Negev is the desert area, but it's also the word for south. So if you have south in your Bible, that's why. The desert of the south is known as the Negev Desert, but it's also south. So there you go. Anyway, there dwelt between Kadesh and Shur. Now, if you look at a map of Israel, let's see here, and you've got over here, this is the Sinai Peninsula. This is a bad map, but anyway, you got Israel over here. Kadesh is down here, and Shur is over here on the Sinai Peninsula. So somewhere in this area is where they're staying. And I know that because it sounds like I know what I'm talking about, but Lil brought her map in today, and she asked me a question, and we had to look at the map to find out that the Wadi of Egypt, which is the southern boundary promised to Israel, is about right there. And I just happened to notice while I was looking at the map that this is, I know Kadesh is there, but I just happened to see the desert of Shur over here. So don't think that I know all this stuff. I just happened to get fortunate that Lil asked a question about it.